Hi, this is Dr. Toby, your host on Health and Wellness with Dr. Toby. Don't touch that dial. We have an awesome program for you this week with Dr. Myrna Alexander, Professor of Cardiology at the University of Mississippi Medical Center, the first female interventional cardiologist in the state of Mississippi. What a great way to celebrate National Women's Month. She trained at Tougaloo, went on to Meharry for medical school, and then pursued her cardiology and interventional cardiology at Henry Ford Hospital in Michigan. Returned and started a family, got married, has a son. She's a wife, she's a mother, she's a daughter, she's a sister, and she's also a faith-based practitioner. She believes in the sanctity of life, and she believes in the dignity of a human being. You will love to meet this lady. She's out of Biloxi, but she's touched the world with her generosity and her love. You don't want to miss this show. And just on the side, she's bringing her sister, who's an internal medicine doctor, alongside. Jesus is Lord. God bless you. Five years. Hi, this is Dr. Toby, your host on Health and Wellness. Don't touch that dial. We have a great show with Dr. Myra Alexander. Dr. Myra is a professor of cardiology at the University of Mississippi Medical Center. Got her undergrad Tougaloo, got her medical degree at in Nashville, Tennessee, and went on to do her interventional and cardiology fellowships in Michigan. She's going to be sharing her story of fortune and life and how God has taken her from where she was to where she is today. I'm not going to take her time. She's an awesome personality, and we're going to be delving deep to learn as much as possible in this Women's Month on one of the most prominent women in our community. In fact, Dr. Alexander was the first black female interventional cardiologist in the state of Mississippi. You're welcome, Dr. Alexander. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So is that correct? You were the first African American interventional cardiologist, or am I wrong in that respect?
Well, so a couple of corrections
Okay.
I need to make. And I've been doing this since I was about 3 or 4 years old. It's Myrna.
Myrna. Okay.
My chief of medicine would be happy to hear you say Myra because
Okay.
he teases me all the time. But it's a little extra letter in there, but it's Myrna.
It's
But
Myrna.
right.
Okay.
So actually, no, I am the first female, black or white, brown, yellow, it doesn't
Oh,
matter.
really?
Um, but that's we just happened to find that out. Interventional cardiologist.
Right.
Now I'm not the first female cardiologist
Of course.
to
Right.
in Mississippi, but I am the first interventional cardiologist. However, I'm not doing interventional cardiology now.
Right.
I was doing it for about 19 years. Loved it. But it's sort of like eating cake. If you eat too much cake, you may get tired of it. You got to change to another dessert.
Okay.
So that's what I'm doing now.
But it's still a achievement in this month where women have been celebrated that you were a pioneer, a pace setter, a trailblazer for women in that area. And I think people should at least record that for the sake of history.
Well,
That Myrna Alexander was the first female interventional cardiologist in the state of Mississippi. But let's talk about you. Where did you grow up? I know you live in Terry, Mississippi right now.
well, actually, we're living in Jackson, but we're
Okay.
close to Terry.
Close
but
to Terry.
we're in South Jackson, a little small area in South Jackson. So I grew up in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Oh.
I'm originally my parents are from the Pine Belt area. So Richton, Mississippi is where my mom is from, and my dad is from Prentice. And I happen to be born in Laurel. Okay, back then there were no hospitals that they took us to, so we all kind of went to a central place.
Laurel is kind of next to Hattiesburg, right?
Right.
Okay.
So not too far from
Mhm.
Richton. Richton is where my mother and father were when they were young, a couple.
Were they military or just
No,
what
they
did
were
they do?
teachers. So
Teachers.
yeah,
Oh,
so my
wow.
dad was in. They met at Prentice Institute, a little small college in Prentice, Mississippi, and my dad was post-military. He was
Wow.
had served in the Korean Army, and went back to school. Went
Wow.
back to Jackson State, actually University.
Wow.
At the time, it was Jackson College,
Mm.
and so I'm the first. I'm the oldest child of three, and so we were there in a little country town at first.
Well, I've been to Prentice. I
Oh,
preached in
have you?
Prentice. I
Oh,
preached in
have you?
Mount Zion Baptist Church in
Wow.
Prentice.
Okay.
And
Wow.
it's a small town.
It is
So
small.
for you to come out of Prentice is remarkable.
Well, okay. My dad, who got around a lot, he did his student teaching kind of all
Oh,
over and settled in Biloxi. So
okay.
when I was 3 years old, we went to Biloxi, and that's where
Biloxi.
I stayed until I finished high school and started
So
college.
your dad was a high school or elementary or,
Elementary school
and your
teacher.
mom?
My mom was a kindergarten teacher, so at the time,
Oh wow.
she stayed home with us until my youngest sister, my only sister, was about three, and then
Mm.
she went and started working as a teacher as well.
Oh wow.
She was working in the Head Start system.
Oh wow.
She worked there for about
So
30 years.
interesting. And how did you get from? So your dad did Jackson State. Your mom, did she do any
So,
college?
so you know what? My mom and I finished college together.
Oh.
So the beginning of her career was kind of offset after they got married. She stopped, had children, and she went back to finish her career as a teacher. And so she took some classes. Tougaloo offered some classes that were down in Biloxi. So while she was raising us, she was taking classes as well. So we actually finished. She finished college the same year I did.
You did. That is
Hmm.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. And I know
Hmm.
you have a sister who's an internist,
Right.
internal medicine specialist,
Brother.
and a
And
brother.
my brother is retired. He worked for the city of Biloxi for about
Oh.
25, 30 years. And
What's
he's
your family name?
Alexander.
Alexander. Okay,
But
okay.
my married name is Nickens.
Nickens.
So
Okay.
Alexander
Nickens.
Nickens.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome,
Uh-huh.
awesome. So thanks for letting us into your family snippet. And let us. So you were born in Laurel,
Mhm.
and you were raised by a parent who were both educationists. So education was huge in your family.
Huge.
Okay.
Not just my family. At the time, education was huge in most families because
Mm.
it was a way to excel and to improve upon life. But actually, my dad's family, his mother graduated from Jackson State
Wow.
with his brother. So my
Wow.
grandmother was an educator as well.
Educator.
Uh-huh.
What is Prentice Institute? You mentioned that. Is that a school?
So Prentice Institute it's closed now, but it was a small high school
Okay.
and slash college. So I think they went to maybe junior college, but it was a dormitory.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it housed students in high school and college, and
Yeah.
so and it was a big thing back then because even I have a cousin that was in my generation that went to Prentice Institute, and I think they may have closed in the 1970 or something
So
like that.
inspiration was never a question of going to college. It was never in doubt whether
No,
you will go
no.
to college.
Right, right, because my parents went to college, and actually we are from lots of teachers in my
Right.
family. Actually, if you go to Jackson State campus, some of my dad's cousins, like F.O. Alexander, the building, that was
Oh,
one of his cousins.
oh wow.
A. Alexander. These are people that were cousins of his.
Okay.
I met when I was a little small child, but they have since they're deceased now. But yeah, education was a big deal in our family.
Amazing. So give me a background to when you wanted to go to college. You obviously wanted to pursue higher education. What tilted you towards medicine? Were you always inclined towards medicine from the high school days, or was it a new thing you found in Tougaloo?
No, so this story has been told so many times from when I was a child. I had chicken pox at the age of 6 or 7 or something like that, and back then I thought I was paralyzed. I mean, my dad was taking me around. I couldn't walk, and I went to Dr. Gilbert Mason, was my doctor at the time. You may or may not have heard of him. No, you
In
got
Jackson?
yeah, no, Biloxi.
Biloxi. I only moved here 5 years ago to Mississippi, so
Okay, okay.
6 years now.
So
So,
Biloxi is right on
well,
I-10,
I've been to Biloxi.
right across from New Orleans, between New
Hmm.
Orleans and Mobile. There's Here we are on the coast. So no, Gilbert Mason was a trailblazer in our town, in that area,
Oh,
in our state. Um, he was my doctor, and when I had chickenpox, he kind of got me up and had me walk. And I thought, man, that is miraculous that he could do that. Maybe it was encouragement. I don't know what it was because
okay.
I was a small child. But then I thought I would like to do that for somebody else.
Oh, wow.
And I just stuck with it at that time. And that was, like I said, I was about 7 years old
Mm.
and just continued to pursue that. But
So, right now we have a school down the road called Grambling State University.
oh,
It's part of the HBCU community. It's in Louisiana. The statistics say that 70% of students who get into Grambling State University do not graduate as per time they should. That means they either are delayed or they matriculate, but they never graduate
mm-hmm,
when they should. And it's become a so there were departments that had to close
mm-hmm.
because nobody was graduating from those departments, and the university felt it was of no purpose keeping those open. So people come in at 10, 20 in the first year. By the last year, they've left the school. They've walked off the premises, and a lot of them are working in other jobs that are not graduate or degree awarding necessary jobs. So my question is, what do you say to the young females and the young males out there who want to just quit college, earn a degree, earn a buck, earn some money instead of earning a degree? Is it something that you would recommend in our current economic climate? Not everybody has to go to college. You can go out there, get a little job, make a little $20 an hour, and pursue your business interest? Or do you still, favoring your background as an educationist family, recommend that they still get an education to the best of their degree, of their best of their ability?
Okay, so school is not for everyone.
Right.
College is not for everyone, but you can learn in different environments. So when you say that 70%, and I have to look up those statistics to
Hmm.
check you on that, right? Because I came from a HBCU as well. If you look at the majority colleges, most of those students don't finish in 4 years either.
Really?
No, So they got a lot of students that's waiting till 5, 6, and some of them wait.
Why? Why? I don't
Why?
get that.
Well, they
I thought that
enjoying
you wanna
college.
get out quicker, save you some student loans,
Hmm.
save you some expense. I thought the earlier the better.
So, Dr. Moma, where are you from originally?
Nigeria.
Nigeria. So this is a different culture. We're same heritage, but different cultures. So in our culture, it has become you've been in high school all your life, then you go to college. It's a fun time. Okay, you make friends. Now some are very eager and fixated on what they need to do. My 4 years of college were the best years of my life. I had a ball. Okay. Um, which was different from high school. High school, I was just ready to get to college. Well, when I got to college, I loved college, but I was still preparing for something else that I wanted to do, for me. Now, a lot of students may not have determined that. There's a lot more opportunities now, and so when you got a lot of choices, there's a lot of confusion. And so we as adults have got to help guide them. We
Right.
have got to help encourage them to continue. Sometimes what they start off with may not be what they end up
End up
doing.
doing.
I was just reading an article yesterday. Dr. Alexa Canada. She was one of the first neurosurgeons female neurosurgeons in Michigan. And I was reading her biography. She quit college as well
Oh,
initially.
yeah.
She went back, but she quit initially. And I'm not sure why, but there's a lot of people that have done quite well not going the traditional route.
Traditional route.
They may have to stop for what monetary reasons, or they're not sure about what they're doing. Like my mom, she got married, she had
Right.
children, but what after I finished at the age of 20, she finished with me.
A lot of the young people are saying it's too expensive. Student loans are going to take a lot of their income. Why spend 100,000, 200,000 paying student loans when I can go out and earn a living?
Well, so it depends upon which college you choose. So, of course, that's why a lot of the junior colleges are doing better now, okay? Because they can still get the preliminary part of college. If you go to a junior college and then transfer to a senior college, depending upon what you want to do, is not as expensive. Um, so it just depends upon what you choose to do. Now, if you choose to do English at a college that can provide English anywhere, but you go to Penn State for 56,000 or 70,000 a year, then yeah, you're gonna have a lot of bills afterwards.
School debt,
Where if
right.
you choose to stay in your own state, where you don't have to pay a lot of extra bill, you still gonna get the same degree.
That brings me to the question: how did your dad handle you, your sister, your brother in college? I'm sure you were all maybe around the same time.
Right, right, we were. My sister is much younger, so she's nearly 7 years younger than me. Um, so at the time, we were had assistance from the government.
Oh wow.
BEOGs helped us tremendously. So they provided us loans or just plain a stipend.
That's a state government.
Yeah, that was a state, and then they
Okay.
cut those out. So whenever you get help, some people tend to misuse the system. So there were a lot of people that were getting the funds, but they weren't finishing school. So then they were spending it, clothes, whatever. They were doing a lot of spending.
Oh really?
But I worked in college as a
Okay.
dorm assistant for 2 years, and so I didn't have any bills after college.
Wow.
And when I got to medical school,
In Meharry.
at Meharry, yeah, I joined the public health service corps.
Really?
Yeah, so they were nice ways of being able to complete what you want to do and not have a lot of bills.
That's almost like the military, but it's not like the
Right.
military.
It's almost like so your agreement is that you go into a primary care specialty. So you may be um, in internal medicine, and then once you finish internal medicine, you say, "Oh, I want to do cardiology." No, you got to stop and you got to do internal medicine, like we agreed. So when you start as a freshman in medical school, the agreement is that we pay your way through medical school. Once you finish, you go to an underserved area. Well, my underserved area was in Detroit, Michigan. So I
Really?
stayed in Detroit.
And after 3 years of doing that, you got into cardiology.
So it's a year for a year.
Oh,
So if they
really?
pay you for a year, you do a year. But you got to do at least 2 years. So I had 4 years
Oh,
that
wow.
right, and it was, I thought it was a great,
So you actually worked as a primary care physician.
I did.
Awesome.
Uh-huh.
That's so impressive.
Uh-huh.
Wow. I didn't know Detroit was underserved. Maybe in those days, not now, right?
No, okay, so underserved is different. Okay, I
It's
mean different
population, right?
population. So if you are in a small ghetto area
Right.
and you don't have enough medical care,
Physicians, right.
yeah, you don't have enough physicians in that area, um, whether you're in a rural area or you're in a populated area without medical care, it's still considered underserved. So
Wow.
I stayed there.
What leadership roles did your parents play in the community? Because I'm just saying, it sounds like your dad was educationist. He was a pioneer in terms of bringing education to some people in that elementary educational area. So,
Hmm.
was he a leader, like a politician? Did he run for office? Was he a deacon? Was he a church leader? Was he, other than just the education bit, what other roles did your parents play in the community where you lived?
My dad was a sixth grade teacher.
Okay.
He was a very stern person, and and even his students. I was not one of his students, thank goodness. My sister was one of his students. She can probably tell you the life under her dad, but no, I was next door to his class. I was not in his class, but he just commanded um, us to be responsible, and that we would not, just because Jane was doing it, does not mean that Myrna is going to do that. Okay,
Right.
because Myrna has this in mind, this is what you want to do in life, then I'm going to help you stay with, keep with that. So they were, and my dad was pretty strict as well as my mom, but retrospectively, I wouldn't have had it any other way.
But what social circuits did they rotate in? Your parents' church,
Oh yeah,
community,
so
and
my
maybe NACCP. I don't know if there was
yeah,
that
my
then.
dad was very active with the NAACP.
NAACP.
My dad was also a chaplain with the service. He was
Okay.
a with the Keesler Air Force Base. He was a
Oh.
chaplain there. This was sort of after retirement. Well, no, while he was working as well.
Mm.
Um, my mom was a Sunday school teacher. Now, initially, my dad was not doing a whole lot of going every Sunday to church. He felt like the life he led was a part of church, and later on, as he got to be an older man, he was a deacon and a trustee at a
Okay.
smaller church. Yeah,
In Biloxi.
in Biloxi.
All right.
Uh-huh. But he's always been a leader in our
Now,
community.
Biloxi, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I feel and I think it's predominantly Caucasian, right? Am I?
No, Oh yeah, most of the towns are predominantly, but it may be 40, 60%
Okay.
Caucasian, maybe 40% African American. So in the area that we lived in is called East Biloxi.
Okay.
It's predominantly black. So at anybody listening to me that's from Mississippi, they know there's a railroad track that that crosses a lot of areas,
Mm.
and that track may divide where you live.
Oh,
Okay,
really?
so on this side of the track, there may have been up near the beach,
Mm-hmm.
which is only a mile from the beach to my house is about a mile.
Wow.
I can walk to the beach when I
Across the track.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
across the track. Oh yeah, walked up and down the track when we were
Right.
kids. People had to call and scream at us, "Get off the track because the train is coming!" Yeah, no, but so there's a majority that may have been
Mm-hmm.
above the track that were near the beach that were Caucasian, but there was a lot of other little spots in town.
So were
Um,
you one of those whose schools integrated, or were
right?
you?
Yeah, we were. Our school was Nichols High School. It was Perkins Elementary and Nichols High School was, and so I came up through busing and integration. That was my era. But at the time, the people that were bused to us, to our school, they came from Keesler. So those
Florida.
no,
Keys-
Keesler
In
Air Force
Biloxi.
Base.
Right. Right. Right.
Keesler Air Force Base. Well, Keesler Air Force Base was an international place, right?
Right.
I mean, there's people from all over the
Right.
world, all over the country that's were there, that were stationed there. So that meant we got a chance to meet with a lot of kids from,
International. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
from all over. So,
Asia, Africa,
well, not
Europe.
that much back then. Back
Okay.
then, there were just people that were in the service.
Okay.
There were airmen.
Right.
There were
Americans. Right.
Americans that had their families there, but they were from different parts
Parts
of
of
the
America.
country.
Right.
Yeah, different parts of the country. They may have been to other areas
Right.
in the world, but they
So
were
it
mostly
broadened your
American.
horizon.
It did.
So you were able to
It
have a
broadened
bigger
them.
outlook to
Right,
life.
and so
Right.
they may have been accustomed to integration more than we were. So
Mm.
when we integrated, we thought it was the greatest, the students, we thought it was the greatest thing ever. We really did not have much of a problem.
So you were in high school when you integrated. Oh,
Mm-mm,
you were in
junior high.
elementary.
Junior
Wow.
high.
Junior high. My goodness.
Junior high.
How did it affect your dad on his job?
Now that did affect my dad. So, because they were integrating, and a lot of the African American teachers, black teachers, they were um, moved moved from this school to the next school. So my dad was moved out into further East Biloxi, which was mostly a white school, elementary school. So there again, there was a different culture. So that did some of the teachers lost their jobs. Some was able to maintain their job. Some coaches, instead of being head coaches, now they were assistant coaches.
Right.
The kind of usual stuff that
Okay.
happens when you.
So you told me your sister, how did she, you went to Meharry and then Michigan. What was her own, trajectory for medical school training?
So my sister and my brother, they were behind me. And my brother probably caught it more than anybody else because he was just 2 years behind me. He was not interested in medicine. He was not really interested in college, even though he went to Tougaloo a couple of years. But that was not something he wanted to do. And so his teachers would compare us, which is not fair for him. Well, by the time I left, my sister, those teachers didn't know me, and so she was able to be on her
On
own.
her
Yeah,
own person.
so she could be her own person. But for
Mm.
my brother, who was behind me, and I was a little bit more determined, I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and I knew where I needed to go, was a little bit more studious than say a guy that had no interest in medicine.
Was that around the time they had the Tougaloo 6 or Tougaloo
The
7?
Tougaloo Nine.
Tougaloo 9.
No, I'm not that old.
No,
But
no.
but but no, that was before me. That
Okay.
was before me. So
So Tougaloo was nationally well known for the
right,
Tougaloo
they
9.
were
Do you
right,
think that
right.
influenced your decision to go to Tougaloo?
No,
You
I
just
didn't.
went there for academic reasons.
I didn't know anything about the Tougaloo Nine. I just knew about medicine. So when I tell you about Dr.
Mason.
Mason.
Mhm.
So after Dr. Mason, we started going to Hattiesburg to a doctor, Dr. Jones. He was my doctor when I was a teenager, and just such a kind man, really. I asked him one day, what school would you recommend that I go to that's in state um, for medicine? And he
Oh,
recommended Tougaloo College.
he was African American.
He was African
Okay.
American.
So Dr. Mason was African American too?
Yeah,
So Mason and who's the other guy?
Dr. Jones.
Okay.
I've forgotten Dr.
I
Jones's
mean, we
first
all
name.
know Dr. the guy in Jackson,
Smith.
Dr. Smith, but I've never heard of the other
You
folks.
got to get around more.
Robert Smith. Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
Awesome. Wow. Thanks for the history lesson. We're being
Actually, if you go to the African American Museum,
okay.
you will see these guys.
Dr. Jones and Dr. Smith.
Dr. Mason.
Mason will be there too.
Dr. Gilbert
Awesome.
R. Mason. You will see him.
Well, that is Dr. Alexander here. She's sharing her heart on her triumph through from Prentice to Biloxi, all the way to Michigan, and now back to Jackson as the first female interventional cardiologist in the state of Mississippi. We're going to continue digging deeper into this wonderful person and how she's come this far in such a short amount of time. Her story will intrigue you. You don't want to miss it. Join us. Jesus is Lord. Amen.